Right now, beneath the ground you're standing on, millions of organisms are whispering to each other. They're sharing food, sending warnings, keeping strangers alive. And they've been doing it for 400 million years. Meanwhile, we can't even text back. We live in the most connected era in human history. We carry supercomputers in our pockets. We can video call someone on the other side of the planet in 3 seconds. We have followers. We have friends lists. We have group chats that never stop buzzing. And yet, something is breaking. The World Health Organization has called loneliness a global public health threat. In the United States alone, the Surgeon General reported that the health effects of chronic loneliness are equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Not 5, 15. We are surrounded by people and starving for connection. But here's where it gets strange. Because while we, the most intelligent species this planet has ever known, are forgetting how to connect, the most ancient organisms on Earth have already solved the problem. And they did it without a single brain cell. Underneath nearly every forest on Earth, there exists a network so vast, so intricate, so quietly powerful, that scientists gave it a name borrowed from our own greatest invention. They call it the Wood Wide Web. And it is, without exaggeration, one of the most extraordinary discoveries in modern biology. Here's what's happening beneath your feet. Fungi, specifically a type called mycorrhizal fungi, extend hair-thin threads called hyphae through the soil. These threads attach to the roots of trees. Not just one tree, dozens, sometimes hundreds. Sometimes entire forests are linked through a single fungal network. And through this network, trees talk. A Douglas fir under attack by insects will send chemical warning signals through the mycelium. Neighboring trees receive that signal and begin producing defensive chemicals before the insects even arrive. A mother tree, a large, old tree at the center of the network, will recognize her own seedlings among strangers, and she will send them more nutrients, more carbon, more sugar. She feeds her children through the underground web. And here's the part that still gives me chills. When a tree is dying, when disease has taken hold, when the end is near, it doesn't hoard its remaining resources. It releases them. It floods the network with carbon, with nitrogen, with phosphorus, everything it has left, and distributes it to the trees around it. Its final act is generosity. A tree's last breath is a gift. Now, let that sit for a moment. Because if that doesn't reshape how you think about nature and how you think about yourself, nothing will. So here we are, humans, the storytellers, the bridge builders, the ones who crossed oceans and mapped the stars. And we are lonely. Not all of us, not all the time, but enough of us, often enough, that it has become a crisis so large it no longer fits inside any single statistic. But loneliness isn't just sadness. Psychologists are careful to distinguish this. Loneliness is not the same as being alone. You could be alone on a mountaintop and feel utterly whole. And you can be at a party of 200 people and feel like you're drowning. Loneliness is the gap, the felt distance between the connection you have and the connection you need. And this is where the mycorrhizal metaphor becomes more than poetry. It becomes a mirror, because scientists have found something remarkable. When a tree seedling is cut off from the mycorrhizal network, when it grows in isolation, without fungal connections to other trees, it is dramatically more likely to die. Not because it can't photosynthesize, not because it lacks sunlight or water, but because it has no network, no shared resources, no chemical conversations, no warnings, no support. It could do everything right on its own and still not make it. Does that sound familiar? Psychologist John Cacioppo spent decades studying loneliness at the University of Chicago. His research revealed something haunting. Chronic loneliness doesn't just make you feel bad. It rewires your brain. It increases cortisol, the stress hormone. It fragments sleep. It triggers a hypervigilant state where your mind begins to interpret neutral social cues as threats. Someone doesn't reply to your message. Your brain reads it as rejection. A coworker's neutral expression becomes hostility. Loneliness makes you see danger where there is none. And so you withdraw further. You protect yourself. You build walls. And the walls keep you safe, but they also keep you starving. The isolated tree doesn't die from attack. It dies from the absence of connection. And so do we, slowly, quietly, in ways we don't even name. But here's what the mycorrhizal network teaches us that no self-help book ever quite captures. Connection is not a transaction. It is an ecosystem. The fungi don't connect to the trees to extract value, and the trees don't connect to the fungi out of charity. The relationship is mutualistic. The tree provides carbon, sugars it creates through photosynthesis. The fungi provide phosphorus, nitrogen, water, minerals, things its vast underground network can reach that the tree's roots alone never could. Neither is the hero. Neither is the parasite. They simply need each other. And this is the part we keep getting wrong about human connection. We've turned connection into performance, into metrics, into content. We measure our relationships by what we get: attention, validation, status, entertainment. And when the return doesn't match the investment, we leave. We unfollow. We ghost. We move on. But the fungi don't keep score. A birch tree will send carbon to a Douglas fir that's shaded and struggling, even though they are entirely different species. And months later, when the seasons shift and the fir has sunlight while the birch does not, the Douglas fir sends carbon back. There is no contract. There is no ledger. There is only the network. And the network survives because everyone in it is willing to give before they are certain they will receive. Suzanne Samar, the forest ecologist who pioneered much of this research, once said something that stopped me cold. She said, "A forest is not a collection of trees. It is a system of relationships." And I thought, neither is a life. Your life is not a collection of achievements, of milestones, of followers or possessions or job titles. Your life is a system of relationships. And the quality of that system, the depth of those roots, the strength of those threads, the willingness to give and receive without scorekeeping, that is what determines whether you thrive or merely survive. The cure for loneliness is not more connection. We have more connection than any generation in history. The cure is deeper connection, slower connection, the kind that doesn't scale, the kind that can't be monetized, the kind that looks like sitting with someone in silence and not needing to fill it, the kind that looks like showing up when there's nothing in it for you, the kind of fungi have been practicing for 400 million years. And here is the transformation no one tells you about. When you stop performing connection and start practicing it, when you allow yourself to be the fungi, not the spectacle, something shifts. You stop asking, "What do I get from this person?" And you start asking, "What flows between us?" You stop trying to be the tallest tree in the forest, and you start feeding the network that keeps the forest alive. And the strangest thing happens. The loneliness doesn't disappear in a single dramatic moment. It recedes, slowly, like tide pulling back from shore. And in its place, something quieter, something warmer, something without a name, but that every human being recognizes the moment they feel it. Belonging. Not because you earned it, not because you performed well enough to deserve it, but because you finally let the threads connect. Every forest on this planet is proof of a truth we keep forgetting. No living thing was designed to make it alone. Not the mightiest redwood, not the smallest mushroom, not you. The next time you feel alone, and you will, because every human does, I want you to remember something. Beneath the oldest forests on Earth, there are threads thinner than a strand of hair, holding entire ecosystems together. They don't shout. They don't perform. They don't demand to be seen. They just connect, quietly, faithfully, without condition. And they've been doing it since before the dinosaurs walked the earth. Maybe connection was never meant to be loud. Maybe it was always meant to be underground. Maybe the roots were always the most important part of the tree. If this reached something in you today, if it made you pause, even for a moment, you might belong here. The plant mind is a place where we slow down and listen to nature, to science, to the quiet truths growing just beneath the surface. Subscribe if you'd like to keep exploring, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes one shared thread is all it takes. The plant mind, listen to what grows.